All right. Greetings, everyone. It's a beautiful day. Hope you all are wonderful. Haki Ami, the Success Scholar. Thank you for joining live here on our YouTube, Raising Consciousness and Capital, on YouTube page, as well as our Raising Consciousness and Capital on Facebook, as well as my Facebook page, Haki Shakur Ami. Thank you for checking out my discussions that I generally have uh, here as well as on what are we on Twitter? No, Twitter. Yes, we are on Twitter. But just want to repeat Success Scholar One on Twitter, so you can check us out there. But I have a wonderful sister who I've known now for maybe about 2 years now. I think when I travel to Tanzania, of course, the world opens up and you meet many unique individuals who travel internationally and doing international work. But this sister, she's brilliant. I can just describe her as brilliant, and she goes to Tanzania uh, many times, a year has been, and I'll let her share that. But she works in the educational space, and I'll let her share her story and what she's been doing. But we wanted to do this discussion. I believe I posted something about business uh, in Tanzania or something. Maybe I posted an article or something, and we had a discussion about doing business in Tanzania because some of us, people who have come there with us, were very interested in starting different operations. And so last time we met with some individuals, but nothing like listening to our own people who have, been there, done that, or who have, just did an analysis of the challenges, both, from Tanzania and other parts of Africa and other parts of the world. So, Sister Mika McGee, welcome.
Thank you.
Greetings, Hotep, peace, and everything else. So sister, we have been connecting. I don't think we were on the continent at the same time over the past few years, but I've been seeing you doing this work. But let's open and share a little bit about yourself. We can take it way back. I know you're in Massachusetts, right? Were you
Yes.
like born and raised there?
Oh no.
Oh, okay,
I still consider myself a Southerner. I was
okay,
born in Mississippi. My
okay.
family is originally, of course, from the continent, but in Mississippi, the Mississippi Delta. Um,
What part of Mississippi? You said the
well,
Mississippi
my
Delta.
family is from the Mississippi Delta, so
Mm.
the area of Yazoo and Humphreys County. My great grandfather actually opened the first black hospital in Mississippi, TJ
Wow,
Huddleston. Yeah.
wow. Mm.
And so my great grandfather, the grandfather of Mike Espy, former Department of Agricultural
Say
Secretary.
say
Yeah,
that
Mike
again.
Espy. Oh, he's
What
running for
is
Senate in Mississippi too. Or he ran for Senate in
now?
Mississippi.
Now, what is he to you?
He's my mother's first cousin. So my
Wow.
grandfather is my great grandfather is his grandfather, but he's my
Do you
mom's first
know
cousin.
Reese? You know Reese from?
Last name Huddleston,
Let me see. What is her last name? Wait a minute. She's
Chicago.
here in Maryland, but I think she his brother. Maybe I don't know, but but yeah,
Wait,
but
which Mike? Because there's Big Mike, the father, and then there's the son.
okay.
The son played
Which
football.
Glassman, Reese Glassman. I don't know if that's okay, but
There's a lot of
yeah,
Huddlestons all over the place.
yeah. So, but no, it's interesting because I recall that because we worked previously on a campaign here in Maryland together, and um, now she's working on someone else's campaign. I just talked to her a couple of minutes ago, but it's just interesting that you mentioned SP. So I followed that campaign the last time when he ran. So he's
Ah,
running again, huh? He's running again.
I think he's gonna run again. I think he's gonna, and
Okay.
I think we're getting there in Mississippi because Mississippi is something special.
Yeah.
And yeah, in some ways that that we understand oppression, and then but in some good ways there's a lot of Black folks in Mississippi that have done
Yeah, it's
some
like
great
40%.
things.
Is it up to 40%?
It's the numbers are high, but they really do they really do an effective job of preventing people of color
Mm,
from voting, preventing Black folks
wow.
from voting. You can lose your right to vote for a lifetime in Mississippi. And so that's going to be vital that they
Mm,
work on voter rights in the South. But that's always been the case in the South, is working
right.
on voter rights. You got to come with state ID and all that. I vote in
Hmm.
Massachusetts. I go up to my precinct and say, "Hey, I'm such and such. I live at," and give them my address, and they give me a ballot, and that's it.
Mm,
But I live in Massachusetts in a space that's where there aren't a lot of people that look like us. But when you go to
hmm.
states where people look like us, you
Mm,
deal with stricter voter registration laws.
mm,
That's just a plain and simple fact. I still
mm.
won't consider myself a Northerner. I am a Southerner. But I received most of my education in Massachusetts, elementary through high school. Went
Mhm.
to college. I went in the military, so I'm an Air Force veteran.
Okay.
A lot of us, that's how we were able to get the monies
Mhm,
to go to colleges, by going in the military and getting the GI
mhm.
Bill. And
Right,
that's what I did.
right, right,
um,
right.
but I decided ultimately to become an educator. I
Mhm,
went to law
mhm,
school. I didn't
mhm.
like law school, but I promised my mother I would finish, so I did. And then I
Right.
went right back to teaching.
Okay.
So right now I teach middle school. I'm a special
Oh,
education teacher and department leader
mm,
at Amherst in Amherst Middle School, and
mhm,
I
mhm.
really love it. I love middle schoolers, and I travel quite a bit. And so
Mhm.
I'll tell you about how I started traveling to Tanzania. I actually went to Tanzania for the first time, and I'd been to Ghana before in Nigeria, but I
Okay.
traveled to Tanzania my first time on a Fulbright scholarship, U.S. Department of
Okay.
Education,
Okay.
um,
Mm,
and went over with a group of educators. Matter of fact, a group of educators from Georgia, and
mm,
it was a wonderful experience. If
mm,
you are someone who teaches English language learners, it is quite an eye opener when you are immersed in a culture where you can't speak the language and you're trying to
mm.
learn the language.
Right.
Um, Especially when we went to Arusha, where in
Mhm.
Dar you'll find more people that speak English in Dar es Salaam, but in
Mm,
Arusha and some of the other remote areas, if you don't know Kiswahili, you're not going to get much done. I mean,
mhm, mhm, mhm.
because in the smaller towns they don't know as much English. However, I thoroughly enjoyed my experience in Tanzania. We were there 5 weeks. It
Wow.
was a wonderful opportunity with the Fulbright. We were able to go to University of Dar es Salaam, learn
Mm,
lessons about the culture, the education system. We visited schools. We
mhm,
did travel to Arusha. Um, we got to visit a group of, and you probably went to see that group of exiled Black Panthers in the Arusha
oh,
area.
yes. Mama
So we
C.
were
Mama
yeah,
C. Oh, yeah.
yeah. So,
We go see
yeah,
Mama C every
the
time.
first time you go visit them, you all and it's all tears and stuff when you know the history.
Right.
So yes, we got the opportunity to spend a few days there. But after I went there my first time, I decided to come back home, and
Mhm,
I told my son had been to Ghana with me when he
mhm.
was really young, and he was looking to get into music. He's a music producer. And
Oh, wow.
so
Mm.
I was like, okay, well, come to Tanzania with me. He's like, no, because I tried to do it in Ghana and it was difficult. And it's difficult in Ghana because, when they say CP time, they mean that in Ghana. Trying to get stuff done, they mean that in Ghana, Nigeria.
So,
So I said,
so
well,
you saying he was trying to his music in Ghana is what
right.
you're saying?
Right, he
Mm,
was trying to kinda get into the music business in Ghana, and it's
mm,
interesting because maybe, like, a decade before, it would have been an easier, but, right now on the west side, the Nigerians have taken over, but Ghana used to be hot when it came to music, with
wow.
High Life, and now it's like Nigeria is kind of like
Mhm.
who running I would say the west side, West Africa, um
Wow.
but I didn't want him to be involved in music in the United States. I just felt like
Mm.
the culture was not
The
something I wanted my
industry.
son involved
I
in.
mean, like you mean like the industry, right? Like to
Yeah,
be,
I didn't really want him involved
yeah.
in the industry in the United States, because there was just
Mm,
some stuff, frankly, that I was just like, I'm never gonna listen to you say that ever come out your mouth. So, um,
mm,
so and sometimes it seems like the music here, uh the type of stuff that comes out your mouth is just not that's just not how he was raised.
mm.
So I said,
Very good. Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
try Tanzania. And he
Right.
came there with me the first time. We were only there like a week. I was on
Mm-hmm.
break, and he absolutely fell in love with it. There are a lot of young
Mm,
people in Tanzania, and there are a
mhm,
few. I have a group of guys I call my sons in Tanzania, and so he was running with
mm,
them the whole time. And he was like, "Ma, do I have to leave?" And I was like, "Nah, you can stay here." He's like, "Nah,
mhm,
'cause I got to go back and make some money, and then I'll come back." So
mhm.
so we came back and we spent the whole summer, and
Wow.
I rented an area, and I don't know if you know Miko Cheney. I rented a spot in
What
Miko Cheney.
is that in Dar or where?
It's in Dar es Salaam. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a really nice area.
Mm,
Miko Cheney, and a lot of foreigners kind of hang out in that area. So I
mhm.
rented a spot, and we built the studio there,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah,
Wow.
built the music studio there, and it was a great learning experience. We had the studio there for about a year, and
Mm,
he worked with various artists, and they produced music in the studio. They made videos. So
mm,
we closed that studio down, and now he works out of, I don't know if you know Omi Dimpons. He's one of the
mm,
he's a entertainer there. He's pretty popular, but now he just works out of that studio when he goes to Dar. Um,
mm,
but business there is quite tough. The young
mm,
people don't necessarily have um the um I'm not gonna say work ethic, because work ethic is just different.
mhm,
But they just, trying to train young people to kind of understand business concepts and to be wary of time and money and resources,
mhm,
especially when they're not there as you're working for somebody. It's kind of difficult to do. Some of
mm.
them are just used to the task of being like, a dada or a kaka, and they, just taking you places and doing things, and like servant type of stuff. And
Right.
so when you say, "No, I need you to be a partner in this
Mhm.
business," and to kind of like build that construct in their minds,
Right.
um, that will move a business forward. That was challenging for us. And it
Mhm.
was really interesting to watch my son kind of try to get people to move when he's
Mm.
trying to do stuff. And,
Right.
he learned some great lessons, and to be pretty tough,
Mhm.
like, okay, well, you're not getting paid if you don't do this, this, and this, and this is when you're
Mhm.
gonna get paid, and this is what I'm gonna need out of you. Um, it
Mhm.
was, but and then the structure of business there. So
Mm.
when you look at like what it takes to get a business license,
Mhm.
as a foreigner, you can't just like, I'm not saying you can't, because I believe anywhere you got enough money, you can make something happen. Um, but if you're dealing with like limited resources,
Mhm.
you're really gonna have to get a Tanzanian signed on to your business with you. Um,
Mhm.
when
Mhm.
you're not a citizen, trying to do things like purchase land, and not say you can't purchase land as a business, but trying to purchase land and trying to get a brick and mortar business up and running, it can be
Mhm.
very difficult and very costly.
Mm.
To stay there as a resident, unless you're married, so unless you want to go marry somebody, but if you're just trying to stay there as a resident, it can be very, very pricey to do. And it's something that you have to renew every few years. And we're not
Mm.
talking about like, if it's actually cheaper to just keep renewing your visa, than
Mm.
to, but of course, if you keep renewing your visa, you have to leave every 3 months. But that
Mm.
might even be less costly than what it costs to renew a residency every couple of years. And
Mm.
so there's some barriers. I think that Tanzanians, are just now, because of COVID, what I did was during COVID, because a lot of us got on a plane and just left the country during COVID, and I did for months. I
Right.
grabbed my two youngest, and I was like, "Let's go," and we stayed
Mm-hmm.
in Tanzania for months. Um,
Mm,
and so, but there were quite a few African Americans over there who couldn't get into the countries they would normally go to, like, Ghana and Nigeria. And so it was just
mm.
difficult. Nigeria was like nobody wanted to navigate trying to get in there at that moment. It's already
You
hard enough
saying
to get to Nigeria just on a regular basis when it comes to getting a visa and just getting through the process.
right.
So a lot of but Tanzania was like open for business all during the height of COVID. And so
Right.
you can like get
Right.
on a plane and it was like a year before they even like tested people. You could literally get on a plane, get off, and just walk out the airport and do whatever you wanted to do
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
Tanzania. So a lot of African Americans were over there during that time. And I
Right.
think they had never experienced like African Americans that were coming over and considering like staying, opening businesses. They
Mm,
hadn't had that kind of an experience like Ghana
right.
is used to, like the West Coast, like the Ghana and the Gambia and Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
where you are used
Mm-hmm.
to African Americans coming to stay to live.
Mm-hmm.
Ghana even offers a right of abode right now. And so you don't
Mm-hmm.
even have to be married. You can go to Ghana, and if your intention is to stay, you can get a right of abode, and which makes it
Mm-hmm.
easier for you to do business if you can get citizenship in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so Tanzania is tough. Um, we're looked at kind of as foreigners. I think that
Mm-hmm.
has kind of we've turned the corner with Nigerians and Ghanaians and West Africans not seeing us as foreigners, but more like
Mm-hmm.
cousins who've returned. But
Right.
Tanzania is still getting there. And it's probably because until recently they haven't had the influx of African Americans that Ghana and Nigeria and the Gambia and Sierra Leone and all of them have seen. And
Mm-hmm.
Sierra Leone now offers citizenship if you have any
Yes. Right.
DNA
Thank you. Yes.
connection whatsoever, which
Mm-hmm.
I do. So I'm on my way.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, I remember you posted that. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So,
Beautiful.
and quite a few people that I know. A matter of fact, there's a lady I know that was in Tanzania, and she was there. She was like, "I gotta go. I'm going to Sierra Leone,"
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
because she'd gotten her after she went to Sierra Leone and she got her citizenship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No.
And it's much
Yes.
easier to do business when you can buy land as a citizen. In Tanzania,
Right.
you have to give up your American citizenship to get citizen. Nobody's giving up their American citizenship. Nobody's giving up their blue passport. My ancestors fought too hard. I'm not giving up my blue passport.
Yeah. No, I didn't know. So you saying to buy land, you got to give up your American citizenship,
No, to
or
become a
to get
citizen. The only way you
okay.
can buy land is to be a citizen.
Right.
And if
Oh,
you're a
right. Right.
citizen, then you have to give up your American citizenship. They don't offer dual citizenship in Tanzania. Now
Mm-hmm.
you can get
Mm-hmm.
married and your husband or your wife, you can get land that way. But I mean if you're
Right.
just operating on your own. So in
Right.
West Africa, you can get citizenship in some of these countries that offer paths to citizenship, which will allow you to buy property and own on your own. Now everybody has to do their due diligence. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying anything is easy anywhere, but
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to just clear processes and pathways to citizenship, they offer dual citizenship more so in West Africa than in Tanzania. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about Kenya, so I'm just speaking about Tanzania.
Right. Right. Wow, no, thank you for sharing that. And interestingly, about your son, just going back with him, and yourself, helping him, being involved in music. So, as our group with the Teaching Artists Institute, uh, we have been going. Of course, I mean, we never spent a lot of time in Dar. It was more of a pass through, but we have initially we went there to partner with Tsuba, which is in Bagamoyo, which is the
Mhm.
art art and music school in Bagamoyo. Bagamoyo is also the historic slave area. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and for the audience. So, but and they would take the slaves from sometimes further in to Bagamoyo to Zanzibar. So, but that was our goal. To there are many when we tell people that we're going to Tsuba, they assume that we're artists. Like that all of us that go there were artists, but it was only like some of the partners, that are actual artists or in the film or music or dancing or something. So theater as well. So, but it's then when we were in Bagamoyo, uh, the last I don't know if it was the last time, but we met Ali Kiba, and he's like and there was another one that we met too. Oh man, I can't remember his Tommy Flavor. Like
Mm-hmm.
we didn't know, they were shooting a music video where we were staying, interestingly, and we didn't know how big they were, like until we went and started talking to the students and showing them pictures, and they were just like, "Oh my god, oh my!" Just like, I mean, and so so we didn't connect with them the first time, but we did go and have dinner with Tommy Flavor. I mean, and that video that they dropped that time, like a week later, it had like over 3 million views, on YouTube. So I was like, wow, that's pretty good, that and that they would shoot a video in Bagamoyo as well. So that was very, interesting. But I'm very interested in that studio concept. I mean, and how it worked, because Mama C, I don't know if you know that, but yeah, she has a music studio, and I don't think I might have looked in it. Like I'm not an artist, so I wasn't like I'll go and walk past and look in it, but she has been doing some things. I mean, she's an artist singer herself as well and played different instruments, but I know that. And that's one of the things that was one of the things I was looking at in Bagamoyo. Like, where, do they have like, something to,
Mm-hmm.
record? I mean, they have a theater, but Bagamoyo is not like Dar. It's kind of rural. It used to be a
Yeah.
big port, but it's really kind of not their financial priority to invest in that. Like for instance, when we were at Arusha, no, so when we were in Arusha, we partnered with two universities, CAC, what is it, Center for something, I don't know, CAC, African Culture, but it's an arts center for arts, but something, but uh, but their school was like, man, it was like top of the line, the CAC, and then the Mandela University of Nelson Mandela, or something, and that's in Arusha
Mm-hmm.
as well. Theirs was very well. I don't think it was as nice as, well. Both of them were pretty nice, but CAC had the nice facilities there. And so, but Arusha is, kind of like a, you know, more metropolitan, if you will. Some parts
Mm-hmm.
it's, very touristy as well. And that's what I noticed. A lot of tourists. I think the last time I came from Kenya to Arusha to Dar, and I saw more people getting off in Arusha than Dar, and I didn't
Yeah.
know.
Or Kilimanjaro. You got Kilimanjaro,
Oh,
you got
right,
national parks there, you also have Kilimanjaro, and
right,
frankly, if you notice the weather in Arusha is kinda on the cooler side, and
right,
so,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. I mean, we were freezing like the last time. People were like,
Yeah,
you
but for
cold?
some
Why you got-"
folks, that weather feels good.
Right, right,
I
right.
like
No,
hot weather, but
yeah, yeah, no, I can get it. Yeah, some people coming from the Caucasus Mountains and places like that. So, so right. So yeah, so I can see that, but definitely, I just in terms of different artists and how the whole East African region, 150 million people in 6 countries or something, and I'm thinking of the Swahili language, how
Mhm.
150 million, and maybe some more, but that's numbers in my head. In several of the East African countries are now um, really kind of becoming like a hub in a sense, a power base in terms of the growth as well. So that's one of the things I wanted to
Mhm.
encourage people to learn about the potential for growth, as well as, like you mentioned, and I know Uganda has a lot, very, very young population, but you mentioned the youthfulness of that, populations
Yeah. Well, Africa in general has a
Mhm,
young population, and so one of the so my son, he's very much interested in the music business. So we started as a Black music collaborative, and really the
oh,
goal was to use music as a catalyst to bring together the diaspora,
mm,
and connect artists through music, and thereby
right,
connect the youth through music. And so
mm,
we've worked with, the purpose of it was to collaborate with East African artists, and then from there to move back to the West. The interesting piece is
mm.
when we got there, when I tell you Nigerians everywhere, they're everywhere. So when seriously, like my first time back, the my sons over there, that's what I call them, my sons. They were like, "Mommy, we want to go see Burna Boy." I was like, "Who is
Oh, wow.
Burna Boy?"
Yeah.
And so I said, I went and looked him up, and I was like, "Oh, okay, his music is cool. We can go see Burna Boy." So we
Mm.
went to the Burna Boy concert, and of course, Burna tore it up. It was like, you know, I was upset at first. I got in there. I was like, "Why y'all didn't get me no seat? I need a chair. This VIP. Go get me a seat. We're near the stage, right?" And one of
Mhm.
my sons is like, "Mommy, it's not that kind of concert." And so after Burner got on, I was like, "You right. I don't need a seat."
Oh,
'Cause
oh, oh, all right.
yeah, but Nigerians come there, they collaborate with different artists all over. South African artists come there, like Master KG,
Mm,
Jerusalem. He came to Dar, like all of them come to Dar Salaam. Dar
mm,
Salaam has a young population. And so
mhm,
African artists from Nigeria, from South Africa, the music is hot right now. And
mhm.
I don't know if you guys know Diamond Platinums, but he is kind of like, he's kind of like breaking out right now from East
From
Africa.
Nigeria?
No, Diamond Platinums is from Tanzania.
Okay. Oh, no. Okay.
They've collaborated with each other. And
Mhm,
so like Tenny from Nigeria has done work in Tanzania with artists in Tanzania, and they kind of
mm,
collaborate together now to
mm.
do that. And so that's one of the things that I wanted to do, is to bring young people together. With my son having a love for music, I said that
Right.
is a way for us to encourage African Americans to go back to Africa to young as when they're
Mm,
young. A lot of us, we
right.
don't see the continent, until we're like, in our 40s, maybe in our 50s. A lot of that has to do with
Mhm,
economics, and we're finally at a point in our
mhm.
life where we can't afford it. And
Right.
so for my children, I decided that I wanted them to be able to experience our motherland in their youth. And so
Yes.
that was
Yes.
one of my goals, to bring my kids, so all of them at least experience Africa, and
Mhm.
I've done that. But for
Wow.
him, my
Yeah.
oldest, he absolutely fell in love with it. All he does
Right.
when he's home is talk about, okay, when am I going to get on my next plane? The next
Mm,
plane to go back to Tanzania. He loves Tanzania. Uh,
mm, wow.
he's met great friends there. They've made great music together. He has
Mm,
videos out there.
wow.
I want to kind of like after a few more projects in Tanzania, I want to nudge him toward like Kenya, and maybe
Mm,
like then back to Ghana and Nigeria, and then maybe down to South Africa because
mm,
I want them to be able to collaborate. And because Africans are doing that, right? And we see they're
right.
breaking to the music in the United States. When you see like Burner, getting nominations and winning Grammys, we're
Mm-hmm.
seeing that now. And I think that's a wonderful way to connect our youth back to Africa is through art, not just music, but all kinds
Mm-hmm.
of art. I have a
Right.
friend, Musa
Good.
Swala, who is from Ghana, and he's an artist here in the United States now, and his art is like amazing. I'm trying to get him at my
Mm.
school so he can do a mural on our wall.
Oh, wow. Wow. No, I'm gonna send you some pictures of what we did in Arusha at an orphanage there. The orphanage is called Havila. Interesting story. The first time that I went to Tanzania, there was a brother running for mayor of Baltimore, a very affluent business brother, and he was running as an independent. Though he mentioned that when I was at an event, he was speaking, and I said something about, yeah, I'm going to Tanzania in I think 2 weeks or something. I said, he was like, you are? We have an orphanage there. And he was like, you got to follow up. You have to stop through. So we went the first time, and some of our curators, I believe some of the curators came from Uganda, um, because Kim, she did some work in Uganda before as well. So they came and they painted a really very very nice picture, and they did it fast too. They had spray cans. I was like, I thought it was going to be an all day job. They got in there and it was like 30-40 minutes of very nice.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quick. I mean, it, and it's still there. So we're very pleased with that uh, going forward. So yeah, but definitely, and the different artists that we've had. Some make instruments and things like that. So it was just a great experience. So, but no, it's good to hear. All the things that you have said. I mean, you mentioned how we went to South Africa as well last year. So that was. A conference as well, because the first time we did a conference in Tanzania and then in South Africa. So, but you're right on that, and we're considering Kenya this year. Interesting. Just like 2 weeks ago, the deputy president of Kenya was in town. He spoke at Loyola University. I didn't know how big he was, but I got a chance to ask him a question. I asked him about the whole East African, what is it called? They have a kind of like a collaboration East African committee or something. So I had an opportunity to ask him a question, but I started looking him up, and once one point he was like listed as a billionaire. I didn't know, but when I posted something in a group, one thing I've noticed, like, if you post some things like very, people in the continent, they it seems, whether it's true or not, but they feel like their leaders are corrupt. So when I posted something about him, he's corrupt. He's corrupt. I was like, man, I don't know, like all the details of, but interesting. There was at Loyola University a European woman who asked him, like, well, we in the United States, you or something about he was about to be tried for at the Hague or something, and she said,
Mm-mm.
Do you have anything to say on that? He beat the charges or something, but he or they were dropped or whatever. And so she asked him about the Dr. Rutu. I can't recall his first name. Rutu, Deputy Minister Ruto, in case anyone watched this later. So, but
I
no,
don't get into politics in Africa.
yeah, well, and yeah,
Mm-mm.
and we
At
sort of have to know
all.
our we sort of have to know our place on some levels because I mean we only like we only get parts of the pieces. I mean we can read stuff, ourselves, but that's one thing I've learned, about public speaking. Like you can throw off all kind of CIA conspiracies and say who did what, but like it's all speculation, honestly. So if we're being honest, I mean, yes, we can believe that there are some, things that go on in terms of, people, basically the West manipulating, exploiting uh, puppet leaders. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
I've just made a I don't really get into politics. And I used to when I used to ask a lot of questions, well, what about this leader? And now I just do a lot of observation and paying attention.
Right,
But
right.
I've grown. I remember I was actually in Ghana when Atta Mills died. I'll never forget.
Mm,
I was in Ejisu, which is near Kumasi, and
hmm.
I was at a school. My sister has had at the time had schools there. Um, she's now a queen mother in that area, but
Oh.
I was at one of the schools in Ejisu, and it came out that Atta Mills had passed away, and me, this is like I was just like, "Oh my god, like what's gonna happen?" Is the U.S. embassy gonna call the Marines to come get me? Yeah, right, right. So,
Right, right.
think about what we've been conditioned to believe that the whole
Yeah.
country is just going to erupt because there's a sudden death of a president. Absolutely
Mm.
nothing happened. There was a
Yeah, right,
peaceful
right.
there was a peaceful transition in government, and that was
Hmm.
it. I was in Tanzania when Magufuli was
Oh,
reelected,
oh, you
and
were
so
okay, okay.
yeah, that was an interesting week, but we survived it.
Mm,
But I was there the when he was reelected, and then I had left. I think like maybe a couple weeks before they announced his death. I know that I was there when no one had seen him, but I was there like a couple weeks. I had
mm.
left a couple weeks before they announced his death. But what I learned is like I don't get into politics there because first of all, I don't know enough. And,
Right, right.
they say, oh, this person's corrupt or that person's corrupt, um, for various reasons. If we understand colonialism, then we should
Mhm,
understand some of what is causing the corruption. Certainly, the neo-colonialism has
mhm,
left its mark and continues to impact African countries.
mm,
The Chinese relationship in Africa is getting really interesting. Um,
mm,
you will see the Chinese everywhere. And so that's becoming a significant economic factor in Africa too. So
mm,
I just pay a lot of attention and do a lot of reading and figuring out and just observing what
mm,
I see when I go where I
mm.
go. Um,
Yeah.
but as a visitor in a country, to come there and then have heavy opinions about who their leadership is, it just make more sense to
Right,
keep your mouth shut. Even if you do have a heavy opinion about it, you think
right,
you know more than they do, and you don't. So just keep your mouth shut.
right,
I mean,
right, right.
that's what I've come to feel like is the best way
Exactly,
for me to
exactly.
to peacefully exist in other people's
Agreed,
spaces. So
agreed, agreed. Yes, no, absolutely, absolutely. And a good brother Nkosi on here. I don't know. He said that he was in Senegal,
Mhm.
and he was kind of you know, calling out, somebody, and saying that they are part of the European establishment or something. But he said that he learned because the people with them with their M16s was starting to look at him a little funny, and like because he was a little loud with it, and so he said he had to learn like, all right, he ain't gonna try to go up. There's a way and how you
Yeah,
have these
it's not
discussions.
America. We that's our culture that we talk about
Right,
our leaders, and we
right,
could have we could have a whole YouTube channel that's dedicated to dogging out either a Republican or a Democrat, a local leader
right,
or national leader, and that's what we do. That's our culture. That is not the culture in other places. Um,
right,
so you have to learn when you're in other people's spaces, what their rules are and follow them. You know.
right. Interesting. So you mentioned, in terms of politics, I'm active here in the Baltimore area in different spaces. I'm advising a campaign, Mexican campaign manager on one particular campaign here. I think she's doing quite well by listening to me. But so you posted a clip of yourself, just in terms of you said that before you work in the education space, and so just share how you feel, in terms of what you're working on, in your state,
Okay, so,
educating Black children.
well, I mean, Massachusetts is, education is it's in our constitution in Massachusetts. It's a right, and so it's a challenge in Massachusetts because the opportunity gap is there as it exists in many
Hmm.
areas, even if it looks like children of color are doing well, even when you compare them to white students, there's still a gap. We
Hmm.
work in white spaces here. Black educators work in white spaces. I mean,
Hmm.
you have segregated school districts. I happen to
Hmm.
work in a white school district. I work in Amherst, Massachusetts, which is, if you want to talk about places that are like the hotbed of liberalism in the United States, Amherst,
Hmm.
Northampton, Happy Valley. That's where I live and work. And it's near the UMass Amherst, the flagship campus for the University of Massachusetts is in Amherst, about
Yeah.
25,000 student campus.
Wow.
And then of course we're the 5 college area. So you got Smith College, Amherst College, Mount Holyoke, Hampshire College, and am I missing one? I think that's it in UMass. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's a high area for academia.
Mm-hmm.
And that definitely seeps into the schools. In the schools, I'm the union president for the local for the Amherst School District, and
Mm-hmm.
currently I'm running for the state president, Massachusetts Teachers Association, which is a bit tough because you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about a group of people that is 85% white, and I'm really unapologetically black, and so I'm constantly interrupting. I'm constantly interrupting spaces. I'm like, oh, you want to be liberals? Okay, let's see what liberals will do here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm about that. I'm like, you know what? Massachusetts was the first state to legalize slavery. Let you be the first to tear down
Mm,
institutional racism within your public school system. Let's do it. If
mm,
you want to call yourself liberals, you about that. Black Lives Matter, prove it to me. You're gonna have to prove that to me.
wow.
Um, and so I will say that I do work with some great people. I call them my
Mhm,
white allies. They growing.
mhm.
But the first step is kind of like working within yourself and acknowledging where you are in your own journey and being an anti-racist and moving
Mhm,
forward.
mhm,
Of course, critical race theory is this hotbed topic all over the place now.
Right.
And I thought at first when I was like, am I dealing with something new? And then when I went
Yeah.
and looked
Right.
at it, I'm like, okay, so we love to make names for stuff. I was like, maybe
Yeah.
about 4 or 5 years ago, my cousin and I have a legal background, but I
Hmm.
like education. But he's a practicing and civil rights attorney, and I
Hmm.
talked him into doing a workshop for the Massachusetts Teachers Association summer conference, and it was the
Hmm.
legal construction of race and the impact on our children. And
Hmm.
in the workshop, we took these, mostly white teachers through this. Like, how they construct this thing called black and white in this country? Let's just break it down. And we just went
Mm.
through the history of the legislative actions and
Right.
court cases that built this idea
Mm.
of black and white and a less than and an inferior and a superior. And
Hmm.
so we
Hmm.
just went through all that. And when you look at critical race theory, they talk about teaching. I teach it every day in my classroom. Like nobody's going to tell me what to teach in my classroom. I'm gonna
Right.
stop teaching. We talked about Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson today. You
Yeah,
know,
I
we
saw that.
had a lesson on Ray Bradbury. I was like, nah, we're gonna set that aside today because this
Hmm.
is history in the making.
Hmm.
You know what tomorrow is, the 25th. So I'm hoping that's the date they choose for her confirmation.
Hmm.
But I felt that that's what we need to talk about, and we've been talking about Brown versus Board of Education all year. And so I
Hmm.
wanted them to understand that decisions of the Supreme Court affect everybody's lives.
Mm.
Um,
Yes, yes,
and
yes.
I can't be anything but authentic when I'm
Hmm.
teaching students, and I teach them what they need to know. I'm an English teacher, and so when we talk about it, reading, writing, listening, and speaking,
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
focus on those things. But I'm going to put something in you before you leave my classroom. Um,
Right.
and so, that's my passion. I'm hoping that one of the reasons I ran for president of the state union is so that I could focus on um, the deconstructing, dismantling racism in public education, and
Mm.
working with, and dismantling racism without our own union. White people
Right.
in Massachusetts love to call themselves liberals and think they just as racist as everybody else. It's
Mm.
just covert racism. In the South, you got just straight up, I don't like you.
Hmm.
In the North,
Mm.
it's something insidious. And
Mm.
so you gotta like dissect that stuff and pull it out of people, because they won't
Right.
just it's
Right.
just not there for them to just show you. You
Hmm.
gotta pull it out of them
Wow.
and say,
Wow. Yeah.
see what I found in you.
Hmm.
And just challenge every microaggression. It's just like, okay, wait,
Hmm.
let me tell you what you just did.
Right. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. So
And I know
yeah.
Baltimore is different.
Yeah. It's interesting because you have different. I mean, you have the plantation liberals, and then you have those that kind of grow up like impoverished. You know, so they more so they identify with black culture. You know what I'm saying? Because they'll walk around like and say yo, and they call each other the N word, like the young white ones, like literally. And that's where, I mean, even when nobody's around, because that's one time I was at work, and I looked out and I saw them talking to each other, and they were saying in this talking to each other, and I was like, I mean, nobody was looking at them, so I'm just, it's just like it made me think like, okay, they don't really, they think that this is cool, like it's a different type of term for them, in their sincerity to be cool or urban, whatever, they think that this is it, you know. Like I saw one movie um, where some white kids, um, somebody or the some black kids came and called them the ends, and they said, "Oh, cool," like they were happy to be referred to as that. So
Woo.
it's just instant dynamic in terms of knowing the and I was just trying to explain this when I was in Virginia. I was trying to explain the different levels and types of race consciousness that some have. We were speaking in the context of Trumpism and conservatism versus the Klan neo-Nazi philosophies, because as I was studying the whole alt-right conservative, the Klan versus the neo-Nazi, the fascists, you can see how some of them move a little differently, and they verbalize their race consciousness, and they call it there's race consciousness. Uh, they verbalize it or express it differently than say a white conservative, like say a Trump or a Tucker Carlson or someone. So
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the KKK, right? And
mm-hmm,
when we look at their history, but when you think about what the KKK did in their terrorist activities, we also had the founding fathers of the eugenics movement. And
mm,
when we look at how they were able to implement law, how they were able to
yes,
right. And so when you think of what's lasting, the KKK
right,
has surges where they're strong at some points in history and they're weak in other points in history. But when you look
right,
at some of the things that the founders of the eugenics movement have done and the laws that they put
mm-hmm,
in place, those
wow,
laws are still on
mm-hmm,
the books. When I tell
mm,
students, we say this is a civil rights movement. It was a black movement, but this was really a human rights movement because Brown versus Board
mm,
of Education didn't just tear down, oppression for blacks. It didn't just integrate schools for blacks. When you look at Lum versus Rice and an Asian man trying to send his daughters to a white school, guess what? They couldn't go to them white schools either. But you know what
mm,
Brown versus
mm,
Board of Education did for them? It
mm,
kicked down the doors for a lot of people, not
mm,
just people who are non-white in this country, for people
wow,
who were non-white in this country to become white, like the Irish
mm,
and the Italians and the Jews
mm,
and the Polish and people who, when they got to
yes,
this country, they was put in the same old we don't care nothing about you, you unfit. You had this
mm-hmm,
eugenics of who's fit and who's unfit category. They were in the
mm,
unfit category. But a lot of
mm-hmm,
the progress that we made um, for the sake of improving the lives of our people just didn't improve the lives of our people. It was a human
mm,
rights movement that anybody that was put in that unfit category was benefited from. And
mm,
so that's a lot of what I teach these students. And we talk about that. Our first book of the year was Warriors Don't Cry with Melba Patillo Bill and Little Rock Nine. And so, and
mm,
we talk about like what did this little girl go through, 15
mm,
years old, coming into this school and
mm-hmm,
having to deal with being called these words and spit on and kicked and what she went through. um that's the kind of stuff that our students need to be learning. And so all these people who are against this idea of teaching the truth about the past, that's the only way I'm gonna teach it. And
wow.
so, because I'm in the English class, you're going, as long as you're reading about it, you're writing about it, you're speaking about it, we're listening, and as long as you're learning those skills, you can be creative with the content.
Mm, yes, 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 yes. No, I'm glad you brought up those things, and it made me think about two things when I was in South Africa. I don't know if just first seeing how people interact, of course, and then talking and learning the history, and then doing my own research. It kind of synergizes, but it made me, when you talk about eugenics, it made me think about how many of the white South Africans, as well as the Nazis, uh, they learned many things from America, right? You know what I'm saying? So you know,
We
there's
wrote the
this
book and sent
right,
it to the
right, right.
Nazis.
Yeah. So there's these interlock
Not
this
we, they.
what is it? Anglo say
Put
again?
myself in that.
The Anglo-American establishment. There's actually a book out called The Anglo-American Establishment. So so understanding that these people sort of have these philosophies and they're intellectuals or in academia as well as high levels of politics as well. So they're these interlocking connections. And that's why I appreciate, people like yourself and Dr. Claude Anderson who understand these different laws and policies. So we're able to, have these conversations and dissect to, bring these things open. So, but I didn't want to hold you up here, but I appreciate this conversation. It's been a long time coming, of course. And so, when are you going back anytime soon to Tanzania?
Oh, I want to go this summer. My son will be leaving to go back next month.
Oh,
At the
really?
end
Wow.
yeah, at the end of May, and then he'll be there probably for a few months. If I go, I'll
Wow.
only be there for a few weeks. I'm trying to spend most of this summer in Ghana.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and
Okay.
so my sister's in Ghana, and so I'm
All
trying
right.
to, yeah, so I'm trying to. She lives there. She loves Ghana. She's a
Wow.
citizen, and so
Wow.
she's
Wow.
yeah. So I haven't been to Ghana since before the pandemic. I've been just
Mm,
going back and forth to Tanzania, and so I'll
right.
go to
Right.
Tanzania this time. But I wanna spend most of my time in Ghana.
Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. Beautiful.
But
Well,
we'll
okay.
eventually connect. Maybe we could be on the continent in the same time and same
Right,
space.
right, 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 right. True, true, true. Yeah, I'm, I'm, I'm doing two this year. I mean, for sure, possibly three, but definitely two. So we'll know definitely in July, August. So we'll see how long I get to stay. So, all right. Well, definitely, sister. Thank you. You want to put out any
You're
contact
welcome.
information if anybody want to look up your work or anything, you got YouTube or anything people should want
Yeah,
to
sure.
follow
I
you
mean, I'm on Facebook, Mika
on? Right.
McGee on Facebook. I think I'm that same thing on Twitter and on YouTube.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah,
Well,
so
definitely.
yeah, Mika
Yeah.
McGee.
All right. All right. So that sounds good, sister. So thanks again and
Oh, you're
have
welcome.
yourself a
Thanks for
wonderful
inviting me.
evening. Yes. 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 Great to have get this done. I'm sure the audience will appreciate it. So, so you have yourself a good night and
You
send the
too.
greetings to your wonderful son. And
Thank
we'll
you. I
talk to you.
will. All right. Good evening.
Peace and blessings.